community who are interested in. Oh, thank you. We'll start halfway with it. Unfortunately, it would have been really cute to get a picture from that day because I had around 30 people in the room and say how much we've grown, but we didn't do that. So here is, I did a quick Google search of basically the equivalent, and this is a pretty accurate representation of how awesome and exciting and cool it was that day. But it's great to get started. And one of the main things we wanted to do is make sure we weren't just meeting once and then going away, and then maybe come back a year later and just meet and have the same conversation, but progress in some way. So we set up some working groups. We set up a cadence of quarterly meetings. So the next 3 meetings for the community are all online and then 1 in person. And yeah, there's working groups on broad themes to sort of take some work forwards as well. We then realized about 6 months ago that the RSE label was very limiting. TREs are more than just software engineers working on them. There's information governance concerns, there's public concerns and more. And so we rebranded to the UK TRE community to be that kind of convening community space for people in the UK to come together and talk about TREs. Oh. And so in terms of what today is about, we kind of said it already. So the theme, as you've seen online, is what's stopping TREs from working together. And it's also about learning. So one big thing we've learned from these meetings is that it's great to have keynotes and these conversations and lightning talks to get everyone on the same page as, okay, here's the latest work going on in this space and here's who's working on it. It's definitely learning about what's actually happening in the space. And then this big question of what can TRE teams do to work together more effectively, and what can we as a community do to support you in doing that and support everyone in the space to work together. And this is not to be taken as truth because it's all very interconnected, but broadly, the keynote is answering that first question from Emily. The lightning talks are all about learning what's actually happening, and the breakout discussions this afternoon are broadly about how we can collaborate together, though it will be spread throughout the day. So please don't take that as just only talking about collaboration in the afternoon. Do also talk about it in the morning. A big thing for us as well, and we've always said this, we do not have a very strict agenda, and we do not have a very strict, like we're doing X, Y, Z, and that's it. So as you go throughout today, think about these questions, but also from this kind of community space, what else is missing? What other things should we be thinking about? What should we be prioritizing and focusing on? And please do let us know, because we are very dynamic and flexible in terms of the things that we're thinking about. We did have a brief thought on some kind of community outputs that we're looking for from today. And again, we're open to these changing, but we're thinking above and beyond any collaborations that we hope come out of today and potential work streams that we can think about as a community. Broadly as a community, we think it'd be very helpful for us to provide a beautiful oil painting. That's actually a painting, that's not a picture. So someone who did that on Google was very good at art, of the landscape of TREs in the moment in the UK. So what organizations they are and what their priorities are, what different community groups there are. We know there's some in the room already today, and what they're focusing on, what teams are working on and what they're prioritizing, just so we can easily direct and point people to the relevant parts of the TRE space for them as well. And a big one is forming some kind of roadmap for the community. That was also a carefully chosen picture. The first one I chose was through the Nevada desert, and I thought that might send the wrong framing of the deserted landscape, but it's not. It's a very luscious and open for opportunity landscape. But we'd love to create a roadmap of, okay, if we have this community space, it would be great in an ideal world, and we're doing very blue sky thinking today of, if we have this community space, what tasks should we be doing? And yeah, we've asked this question before and we've said, oh, we should do like X, Y, and write this paper and do that. And then no one has any time or resource to work on it. So blue sky thinking today is, in an ideal world, what would we want to create as a community, and what resources, funding, timeframes would we need, so we can create a roadmap to say, if the UK TRE community is to exist and deliver on what the community wants, here's our proposal for like the funding and time and resource and the stuff we need. So really thinking about that roadmap will be great for today. And of course, anything else that is missing from here as well. On this question of what to think about today in terms of the roadmap, I'm just going to hand over to Balance Stewart, who is Program Manager of Dare UK. I got that right, actually, your full title, cool. Who's going to share some updates from the program on this kind of question of road mapping and resources.
Thanks, Harry. Oh. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to talk for very long at all, really. I just wanted to tell you about 3 things this morning. So the first is that Dare UK, as many of you probably already know, inviting proposals for community groups to form, and the UK TRE community is indeed one of those groups that's already formed. And they're modeled very much along the Research Data Alliance community groups. There are interest groups which are focused on sort of broad-based problems, and working groups which are much more focused and on a particular output and are time limited. So really, if you have ideas coming out of discussions, for example, from today for a community group, then do get in touch. The second thing I wanted to say is that we are making some funding available to support these community groups, so particularly around sort of community group management and coordination and networking. So there's some support for salary costs for managing community groups, for things like website development, and for events just like this to support bring people together, which is really important. So in order to apply for that, there's a funding application form. So there's also, as well as the community group charter, there's a funding application form. The deadlines are quite tight, so that needs to be in before the Thursday, the 28th of September. But it's quite a light touch application form where you essentially list what you want to use to spend the money on. And we're around. I'm around all day today, so I'm very happy to take questions on this. And if you're interested, then please get in touch. The final thing I wanted to say is, and this, we're not quite open for expressions of interest for this quite yet, but we're hoping to do so by the end of this week, which is that we're planning a sort of in-person residential workshop towards the end, on third week of January 2024, really trying to identify what the grand challenges are in the sensitive data landscape and data linkage, particularly around non-health data, but also including health, to essentially to answer the question about what are the most pressing and cross-cutting research priorities and opportunities that can be unlocked by data and infrastructure connectivity at scale, that essentially phase 2 of the DARE UK programme should prioritise. So, like I said, expressions for interest will open for this hopefully towards the end of this week, and will be open till the end of October. And we're really looking for a wide diversity of participants, people who are really interested in cross-cutting data linkage and what the future of this space is going to look like in terms of the scientific and strategic use cases. Okay, I'll stop there. But like I said, we're around. There's more information for the community groups on our website, but do come and talk to us. And I'll hand over back to Eric.
Thank you very much. Yes, again, just highlighting there that we are thinking now about specific resources and funding, that kind of thing, for these groups rather than just rely on goodwill. So again, that big question today is not just, oh, cool, like this would be a good thing to think about. It's trying to create concrete proposals and plans for what that work would actually look like in the flesh. Cool. So brief summary. Key questions to be thinking about today is this question of what's stopping us from working together, what's happening in the space, and what can we do together collaboratively, and what can the community do to support you? But also anything else that you think we should be focusing on as a community, please do record that and share it with us so we can incorporate it. We are going to write a report from today at the end for everyone who has joined, but also those who couldn't make it. We want to make that as detailed and clear as possible. So the more thoughts we can share, the more representative that report will be. So please do keep taking notes and keep having conversations. And think about these outputs. So one thing that we just want to create as a community is this representative landscape of the UK TRE space at the moment, and some kind of roadmap for, in an ideal world, here is what the community will be able to do going forwards. So as you're having conversations, please think about those things as well. That is it for the intro. Only 4 minutes over, which is great. I'm now going to hand over to Emily, who's CTO of HDR UK, for Keynote. Can convening a technology ecosystem help TREs to work together? Just a reminder as well, please ask questions via Slido. We are using the free version of Slido because we're a community without funding at the moment, and there's only a limit of 100 people who can use it at one time. So please only go onto the Slido if you actually have a question to ask, so we don't overload it and don't just camp out on the Slido. Maybe not right now. Thank you though, Martin.
Hello, everybody. Really fantastic to see you all here today. I'm utterly delighted that the community has grown to this size, especially with all of the other people on Zoom and things as well. It's absolutely fantastic to see. So I'm going to be talking about some of the work that we're trying to do in HDR, but also some of the wider initiatives. And this is very much, these are some of the ideas and some of the things we're trying to set up at the moment. Please give us your input, because for us, the TRE community is absolutely and utterly critical to everything that we do. So for those of you who aren't aware, HDR's mission is to unite the UK's health data to enable discoveries that improve people's lives. And our vision is for large-scale data and advanced analytics to benefit every patient interaction, clinical trial, biomedical discovery, and to enhance public health. So how do we plan on doing that? Well, these orange blobs here are a description of the steps of a researcher journey. And so if we look at our primary goal in HDR, the main thing we're trying to do is accelerate that research journey towards trustworthy use of data for the public benefit. And so whereas you might get an institute, let's say like the Dementias Institute or something, they are focused on trying to do dementia research. HDR, you might think, are mainly focused on doing health data research. Well, yes, we do health data research, but actually it's mainly the community who do health data research. HDR are really trying to focus on streamlining the journey for researchers so that the whole community can do that research. So a lot of the stuff we do is driver programs and things to try and help streamline that journey, but that's not our primary output. Our primary output is to work with people such as yourselves to say, how can we make this an awful lot more efficient and an awful lot more scalable? So what we're going to do, we're going to improve health and boost data science by making it easier for researchers to find and access and use diverse high quality data. We're going to provide leadership to fix difficult technical problems by creating innovative solutions needed for researchers to use large scale data safely and securely. And we're going to accelerate and streamline health data science by developing open collaborations that connect people and data and organizations across the UK and internationally. So the main problem we're trying to solve really is that most of the time, if you look at the majority of projects that happen, is one researcher goes to one TRE or one data custodian if it's a research group who've collected some research collected data, and it's a one-to-one relationship where people are trying to analyze that data. That is not going to help us scale the sort of work that we do within the UK. Everybody is saying, well, actually, I need to link to lots and lots of different types of data. I can answer far more questions if I get data from lots of different places. And so we're wanting to get to the point where we can actually have it that it's normal process and really easy for researchers who are accredited, doing things in a safe, transparent way to be able to access data from multiple different sources. And this becomes routine so that we can get to the point where it becomes relatively straightforward to do research on 67 million people. And that's not just kind of routinely collected data, but that's linking to lots of other different types of data, from wearables information, genomic data, imaging data, all of those other types of data as well. So we've got an integrated approach, accelerating trustworthy data use, empowering researchers, and promoting partnerships. So to accelerate trustworthy data use, we're implementing a national research data strategy and assembling infrastructure and services aligned to research and innovation needs. This is a rather crowded slide about the data strategy. Obviously, we're very much focusing on routinely collected, unconsented data, as is normally held within trusted research environments. But it's really key to then also link with highly curated data that you find in regional TREs or SDs. Just through the day, replace TRE, SDE, Safe Haven with whichever one you prefer, just in your own heads, if you don't mind. And we also want to connect with non-health data as well. We want to connect with personal monitoring data, environmental data, and obviously research collected data. Some of that makes it sound a little bit like Big Brother, being able to access absolutely everything out there and all of these other things, which me personally, and probably many of you in the room, sounds utterly terrifying. But obviously the main thing that we're trying to do is do this in a trustworthy way so that any research that is done within the public benefit and is curated, and that this is valid research from recognized, approved researchers. So although we do want to access all of this, we're not proposing in any way that there is one big data warehouse with all of this information in for any dodgy government to query and use against us. So accelerate trustworthy data use. So what we're planning on doing is very much creating a technology ecosystem, which I'm going to be talking about in a bit. But technology is obviously not going to be is only one of the things that we need in this space. We need trust and transparency. We need to be able to have usable data so that when people get data, it's ready and raring to go. And we need to be able to build capacity. I think many of you will recognize the challenge of getting people working in this space and hiring people with the sort of domain expertise that we need. It's a real challenge. We are going to empower researchers by valuing people with diverse perspectives and skills, committed to open and team science to advance scientific discoveries and deliver patient and public benefit. As you can recognize along here, if you see point number 1, I might have been slightly involved in this slide, it says software developers and research software engineers. I didn't just do this slide for this talk. This is used across all of the different what is HDR slides, but you can see how important that is in terms of this community to do what we want to do. So we very much want to work across all of these different groups because we need everybody in that group in order to deliver this and in order to streamline that researcher journey. We have 5 driver programs, and the driver programs are very much answering health questions and doing health research. But the reason that those driver programs were chosen is because they push the boundaries of what is possible. And these exemplars will basically build infrastructure and build new capability with the idea that that can then be used by many, many different groups, and that they work with the infrastructure and services so that actually we can create a solution that isn't just to answer a specific scientific question and then thrown away and everybody has to do it. The whole idea is that bringing together both the driver programs and the infrastructure, we actually get something persistent that can be then used to scale everybody else's projects. And we very much want to promote partnerships, building and maintaining critical partnerships, aligning incentives, reducing complexity across a fragmented landscape. This is a lovely slide of all of the different groups that we currently work with. It's a bit crazy. So on to then technology. That's their sort of overview of HDR. Why does all of this matter to you guys? Well, if I think about the technology journey that a researcher has to take, and I think about what has to happen within a TRE, I can put this into data discovery, data access, data environment, and data analysis. And you guys will all be pretty familiar with many different processes and technical steps that we need to go through in order to get to being able to do a research project. So we need to have a website which promotes the data set and explains what's there and how to contact you. You need to have a metadata dictionary when people ask what information have you got. You need to be able to have a process for doing feasibility analysis. So by that, a researcher comes to you and says, I want to do a study on asthma. How many people have you got that meet my criteria that are female and this and that and the other? You've only got 2 people. Right, okay, let's try and change that criteria and ask the questions again. So you need a way of doing that. You need to have a process for data access requests. You need to have an audit trail about any data that you give out or any processes in terms of access request forms. You need to be able to do the cohort building, data linkage. You need to understand phenotype definitions in order to do all of these things. You need to be able to de-identify data, and you need privacy enhancing techniques. So all of these things you need to provide as a data extract. You then need to configure the environment. You need to set up relevant software. So if somebody's looking at genomic data or imaging data or just a stats package, you still need to make that available within that environment. You need a process and an audited process for validating users. You need airlocks, you need disclosure control. Then you need to do things like data cleaning, and this might be in collaboration with some of the researchers. TRE can do some of it, researcher will do some of it. Same again with data standardization, same again with data curation and data pipelines. And you need to do all of these different things before you get to the point of doing data analysis. And one of the major challenges here is that everybody has built solutions to do all of these things because they're things that everybody needs. That's great, but if this little slide is supposed to indicate that although there is some sharing, and my little sort of turquoise blobs mean sharing, there's very, very little across the piece. So people don't tend to use the same solution. People tend to build different solutions. And it means that when a researcher goes to a TRE, they've got to learn a whole new set of tech stacks. They've got to learn a whole new process, and it really hampers the desire of a researcher to go to a different TRE, because they've got to go through all of that learning process and things as well. But it also means there's huge inefficiencies between different in terms of for TREs, because we can't learn from each other and reuse things, and it costs an awful lot to build all of this stuff. So how can we help this environment? Now, the slides I'm about to show, these are pretty hot off the press. So this is something that I really truly want people to come and tell me what we need to add into this and what their thoughts are on it, because this is something that I've been developing coming into post in HDR, and it's different from the previous 5 years of HDR. So the previous 5 years of HDR, a lot of it was happening in different pockets, and what I'm trying to do here is actually really promote the technology ecosystem that we have. And when I say that we have, I don't mean that HDR have, I mean that we have, and how we can bring that technology community together. So firstly, it's community. This is absolutely and utterly key. These sort of events are fundamental, and I'm delighted that the TRE community has come together, because it was one of the things on my to-do list to try and create a load of people. So it's brilliant as far as I'm concerned. So we want to know, how can we as HDR really support this community? How can we help you guys to do all of the stuff and add to that and add value to it? How can we help more? What can we do? Please talk to us about it. So next thing, people. Very much the people in this room. So I think historically, we've had an awful lot of understanding about the people who are maybe doing the data analysis and producing the health-based questions. But for me, we haven't had enough equal focus on the people developing trusted research environments, developing innovative solutions in this space. So how can we bring you guys together and really raise the profile of all of the stuff that you do, and really bring in some of these key questions that you're trying to ask? So we've been doing some work towards this. We've done what's called that we've done a document, which is obviously not necessarily solving a problem, but documents are some way towards it. We've written down what our principles are around what's classed as a technician's commitment. Now, we've signed up to this and we've done all of the things for it, but I would say this is a wide initiative where they're trying to get lots and lots of different groups across the UK to sign up to this. One of our first things we're going to do is actually ask people what they would like to be called, because we don't think technicians is the right word. Now, the idea of a technician's commitment, a lot of the things in there are actually a really good idea in terms of career development, in terms of recognizing people's contribution, in terms of not just supporting things from academic outputs. However, so all of that stuff is written in our thing, but we don't really want to call it a technician's commitment. But if you'd like to read about our principles around that area, please do have a read. And it's very much in the document about how we want to support the RSE community. Okay, people, capacity building, recognizing non-traditional careers, including RSEs, and also supporting a wide range of impacts, so not just academic papers. Now, I know from my own personal experience of trying to do things within a university, how challenging it is to try and get recognition from people that if you're not a standard academic, then you're just put into that other group of somebody who fixes my PC. And we really do need to move away from that, and we really do need to have a recognition that there needs to be a full career progression in recognizing that it isn't just about getting a Lancet paper out there. A load of the things that we do have much greater impacts, but we need to find a proper way of recognizing this. And I do think the funders are getting there with it, but we've still got a long way to go, and we've still got an awful long way to go with universities. So let's try and work together as a community to actually really try and make a difference in this space. Beyond health, We're doing a load of stuff. Obviously, you need to be able to link health data to non-health data in order to answer some key questions. That's absolutely fundamental. And any technical solutions that are built actually need to work with non-health data as well. However, a lot of the solutions that are out there and innovations in TREs apply to all forms of sensitive data. And so actually, we should really be working together as a community of people who work with sensitive data, regardless of whether they're doing health or not or whatever. We need to work together. And so you'll hear some presentations over the next few days from DARE, which I would highly recommend you go to, because obviously that's the broader thing around working with lots of different data, sensitive health data sets. So many of you know about DARE. It's a cross organization, funder organization, and it's very much around working with sensitive data sets. And we're just coming to the end of phase 1B, and we'll be moving into phase 2, which is more around building and some of these components. So standards for interoperability. Absolutely and utterly key if we're going to scale and work across TREs and have us working in an interoperable way. Please help us develop these. What should we be standardizing? How can we help? If you guys develop something as a TRE community, can we, promote it? Can we adopt those standards? Can we make sure that the world knows about them? How can we help in this regard? How can we help with that impact? So Monica and Jeff are leading on the data standards bit. And one thing that is quite different to previously is we very much adopted the OMOP data standard. And we're in the process of several different programs of work, working with Eden to try and OMOP a lot of data across the UK, and also working with the now NHS England SDE community. That's all of the new SDEs being set up, and they've also adopted the OMOP data standard. So it can be really helpful if you want to do things like cohort discovery, if you've got data sets out there and you can federate them and you can find out what data is available for feasibility analysis and things like that, aggregate level components. And then there's many different types of research project where you're federating, whether that's pooling data together, sending algorithms off to data, where having standardized data sets can really help in that process. So standardize once, use often. Science of the infrastructure. This is one that I think is absolutely key when we're recognizing the value of these sorts of outputs. So rather than just having, and I don't mean just, but rather than having the clinicians standing up as the main people giving you the health-based outputs, which we absolutely need as Health Data Research UK, we also need to have the other people standing up talking about innovative, different infrastructural components that have made a transformational difference, and recognizing that in its own right as the science of the infrastructure. And so recognizing and valuing your inputs. So the next thing is, and I've colored this in a special way to be working with the rest of the ones, there are a vast number of technical solutions out there. And so when I'm talking about a technology ecosystem, I'm not talking about HDR's tech. That's a small component of all of the tech out there. I'm saying, how can we bring together the community who are developing tech? There's loads of it. It's brilliant. There's loads of different funded initiatives. There's some fantastic stuff out there. How can we have this community working around that and help people to access that? So we are also developing some components ourselves, but all of the tech that we're developing, we're wanting to co-create with the community, and we're releasing open source. And so we very much want to work with people to say, what tech do you want? How can you work with us? So we're developing solutions that support the infrastructure and help people to do things like find solutions out there. But we're also developing some solutions where we're trying to build once so that multiple different TREs don't have to build it themselves and maintain it. There may well be loads of different bespoke solutions out there that people want to keep and work really well. Fantastic. But there'll also be other TREs who may be younger TREs who don't have an existing solution or want to move to a wider supported solution. How can we build something once and then have many different TREs use it? So we don't have to have that every single person has a different bespoke solution. So please co-create these with us. We've got lots of different programs of work over the next 5 years. And one thing I'd like to just point out is some of you will be aware of our gateway, a website that HDR have developed, and this is something that's been very sort of prominent and important over the last 5 years. It will continue to be, but I'm just pointing out that we've got many other work streams around technology that we're building, not just the gateway. So we've got about 60 different people across the organization, both centrally within HDR, but also within the universities that we partner with, working and developing technical solutions, so software developers. And the idea is that we're trying to very much get that group, rather than working in pockets, developing individual things, we're trying to get that group really working as a cohesive whole, understanding what each other's doing and building interoperable tech. So the idea is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and we're wanting to reuse and share our code. We're wanting to build capacity, knowledge sharing, and again, the community. So I'm going to very quickly explain what the gateway is. So this is my slide from before, lots of different tech out there. The gateway, what we're wanting the gateway to do is to help point people at where there are other solutions available. So, so what we're wanting to do is to say, right, somebody's developed a really good pipeline for curating and standardizing this data. This is over here. Somebody's developed a really good TRE blueprint that everybody else can use to spin up in an Azure environment. Here it is over here. So we're trying to say, if you're wanting to promote and share all of your stuff, we would like to help point people at all of those different components. But we'd also like to provide some things within there that means that an individual TRE doesn't have to provide those things themselves, such as a metadata dictionary or a data use register, those sorts of things. So not everybody has to build those things if people want to use it. There's no obligation to do, but we're trying to create tools that if you do want to use it, it's there for you. So we've got a current version of our gateway, which we're very, very cool in calling Mark 1 because we're like that down with the kids. It's, for those of you who've seen the Gillette advert, it's Mark 1, and then we've got Mark 2, the best the data scientists can get. But anyway, so Mark 1 has a cohort discovery tool, which is OMOP data sets in a federated way. We can query that and get aggregate level counts back to help people do that feasibility component. Metadata dictionary, we've got a data access request form. We've got a way of doing a data use register to say what projects have been supported with different data sets, which publications came out of that, and a data discovery thing. So tools, software, collections, publications, all grand. However, it was written pretty rapidly in the middle of a pandemic to do lots and lots and lots of different things. And so we think it's a stepping stone or a foundational building block. And we're very much in the process of building what we describe as Mark 2. And that's going to be much more brandable by people. So the different solutions out there, you can have your own identity on it. You can actually have your own sort of TRE components on it, and very much around re-engineering it to be far more modular. So it's actually much easier for the community to develop it as an open source solution. We do not want to just be building this from the core people that are funded from HDR UK. We want people to go, the gateway, it doesn't currently do this. Why don't you get it to do that? Oh, great. Do you have a software developer? Yes. Fantastic. Would they like to build that? Yes, please. So this, we really want to be a community developed thing once we've got the core code more modular and we've released this Mark 2. So community develop, please help us build it. Let's not reinvent the wheel. There's some great solutions already out there. We're very much trying to build on open source tech already available. We're wanting to work with communities such as yourselves. We want this to be exemplar driven rather than just building tech for the sake of tech. And we want standards and interoperability to be key. We want technology to streamline the processes. So at the moment, the current gateway, it's pretty manual in terms of uploading data into it and using it and things. We want to very much turn that on the head. So by default, it's all automated. By default, it's all done by APIs. We'll also provide a nice little user interface to do stuff, but that's more of a secondary thing than the automation. And I've even put an exclamation mark after it, so it must mean it's important. And recognition of different types of users and requirements and listening to feedback. So we just had some recent news that the NHS England SDE community would like to use the gateway as their single front door to the SDE network. So that means that rather than them all developing all of the tech to have a data dictionary and a data use register and a data access request form, they're going to adopt the gateways, and we're going to work with them to make sure that that fits their needs and things, and that all of their requirements are built into the next Mark II version. So this little slide here is from a while ago now, but if you look at the amber things, these are the things that we've already got built in some form but we're wanting to enhance, and these other things that we would like to do are additional things that we'd like to put in the gateway. So obviously down here you can't have the individual row level data leaving a TRE. Absolutely, quite sensibly, you know, we don't want to be doing anything with that row level data. We don't want to be running TREs in order to do that. There's loads of people out here who are very capable of doing that sort of thing. But what we can do is try and help people to share all of the things that aren't the sensitive data. So all of the processes around it, all of the curation stuff around it, so that people can actually find that in one place and it's actually easily shareable. And we'd also like people to be able to pull in some of that information into the TRE environment. So what else would be helpful to you? These are some of the ideas that we've had. What, you know, if you guys run TREs, what else should we be doing that we can provide one solution for that might help? So delighted Carol Goebel's here. I think Phil might still be on holiday. Why is he not here then, lazy so-and-so? He needs to get his priorities sorted. Carol and Phil are doing a fantastic work stream on federated analytics. The key thing is, if we're going to get to this point, we need to be able to do things in a federated way. So we need to have TREs working across each other. And so this is the kind of the main problem that they're trying to solve, not by building yet another federated solution, but saying, how can we build standards and how can we build recognized processes so that each different TRE doesn't have to redo the process every single time you want to do something in a federated way. So we've actually, the same group have got some front-loaded some of the work on federated analytics through a DARE program, and there's going to be talks on this. So I'm just going to give a very quick summary, and please do go and watch the actual real grown-up talks rather than my high-level waffling. But essentially, if you look at most of the time at the moment, every single time a federated project needs to happen, each different group has to develop its own unique standards. Each TRE has to develop a bespoke solution, independently validate the solution against the 5 safes, and make sure that it adheres to PPIE and data governance. And so there's many, many different ways of setting these things up. Can we create a way that means that actually we recognize a way to do this that's then agreed between different groups, and all of these different solutions adhere to that standard, so it streamlines that process? So this is the idea of using research digital objects enhanced with the 5 safes model as a method for doing this. And this is a DARE sprint project, but the work from this will then continue on as part of the federated analytics work stream, just to give you a feel for the stuff we're doing. Phenotype library. For those of you who haven't seen the phenotype library, it's associated with the gateway. Please do go and have a look. Phenotypes are used by both TRE community and the researchers. You know, if you go to a TRE and you say, tell me how many asthmatics you've got, somebody then has to work out, right, what definition of asthma do you want? Do you want it somebody's had a prescription for an inhaler in the last 6 months, or do you want to have severe asthma where somebody has to have been hospitalized with it in the last 6 months, for instance? What ICD-10 codes are you looking at? What drugs are you looking at, et cetera, et cetera? Rather than every single TRE doing that and every single researcher having to work out those things every single time, the idea with the phenotype library is you've got a standard set of them. So you might have severe asthma. Oh, right, somebody needs to have had a hospital admission. Or you might have like just mild asthma where somebody needs to have had a prescription. So the idea is you've got multiple different definitions here that people can use, and that is helpful. What we'd really like to do, is make it that the phenotype library it becomes accessible for researchers within the TRE environment. Now, at the moment, that's a bit of a challenge because of airlocks. So it'd be great if we could find a way that we can do that. And also for TRE data analysts to use and start populating the phenotype library. So the phenotype library really, you know, the last few years, it's pretty much built as a prototype, really. And we've got some additional funding to really enhance it and take it to another level. And so it'd be great if people said, right, phenotype library, let's put all of our TRE definitions into that, reuse them and make them available for researchers, and then other people can use it. Community tool. If you're interested, please reach out. Prognostic Atlas is an addition that we're creating a web portal for people to understand at an aggregate level, high-level population disease statistics. So this so far is working with CPRD data and also the data from the BHF Data Science Centre, which works on the NHS England National TRE. So it's actually got about 56 million people's data in here. And obviously, all the row level information stays within the TRE, but what's been exported is really high level aggregates, you know, breaking down numbers by age, by ethnicity, by sex, by disease, by comorbidities. And so the idea with this is that you can give for researchers and for clinicians really high level understanding of different diseases at a scale that has never been done before. And we're wanting to interlink this with the rest of the gateway so that you can actually have these different insights. And this is just a prototype of what it looks like. Each different hub and driver program developing technical solutions. One is the BHF Data Science Centre, and they've recognised the real importance of providing additional information about data sets for researchers when they go to do their data analysis. And I know, because I ran a TRE for a decade, how much researchers value being able to see this sort of information. If you look at things like what's the data coverage for a particular data set, what's the data completeness, and more information about these different things, it means that researchers don't all have to do that work themselves, and that there's some easy things that they can really grapple with rather than having to spend, you know, the first 3 to 6 months of their analysis just getting their head around the data and understanding the quirks of it and trying to work out why something's missing or whatever. So this gives information to researchers to share that data, so it doesn't have to be done lots and lots of different times. And what we'd really like to do is say, right, TREs, this is a really useful bit of information to provide. How can we share that? Could we create some dashboards? If you gave us this information in a particular form, we can make that available for you so that everybody doesn't have to create these sorts of bits of information. So we want to work with you guys and say, you know, could you share this information, not just about metadata and the metadata fields, but actually insights into data that would really help the research community grapple with understanding about their data sets. I'm almost finished. Driver programs, they're developing lots of different tech and lots of different solutions, pushing this groundwork forward. How can we get that information and really make that then available to other groups? The hubs, these are groups that are creating specialist resources around particular sensitive data sets and doing things at scale, both doing the infrastructure and the services to support these different disease areas often. Again, they've all built really helpful, useful tech. How can we share that? How can we help people reuse the solutions that are out there? So I hope, going through a technology ecosystem, I hope I've sort of set a scene in terms of some of the stuff that we're doing, but this is very much around how can we work together to do this. And this technology system isn't HDR's, it's yours. So please say, what are we missing? What could we be doing better? How can we support this? So some of the examples I've given are around the federated analytics, phenotype library, and the atlas, and how we can link to different software solutions. Examples of where we've said we're building technical solutions that multiple people can use, things like data use register, metadata dictionary, feasibility analysis type tools where people can have a look at lots of different information at an aggregate level. And these are all of the things that we've gone through. So please do help us with this. Oh, And just as a general note, I'm given the opportunity to stand here. I might as well plug something. It's we've got about half the team who are what you might describe as classical research software engineers, and others who've come from industry, kind of bridging that world. So if you guys ever are looking for, you know, a new and exciting, innovative post, please do keep an eye out for roles. Thanks very much for listening. Sit down now.
I think standing up for a few minutes. We have a few, thank you very much, Emily. That was awesome. We have maybe 5 to 10 minutes for questions. Of course, there's breaks and lunch and everything, so please do chat to Emily afterwards as well. So if you go to Slido, put in that link, maybe for up and down questions, and we'll get started that. Again, there might be a little bit of a capacity limit on Slido, but we'll cross that bridge as we come to it. There are already some questions on there. I think we'll just share a mic, if that's okay. Cool. Not necessarily. So the first question on here is from a public member who's saying, as a public member, I can see huge benefits from working together in collaboration. But on the flip side, what are the things that are detracting people from working together, and how can those sort of limitations live alongside a collaborative approach?
So I think one of the challenges here is getting TREs to collaborate rather than compete. So if people view it that, you know, we've all got to make sure that our TREs are self-sustaining and that we have the money to fund all of the work to run them, which means that we need to have a certain number of research projects coming in where we can actually get the funds from those research projects. And it's a real challenge. Running a TRE costs a huge amount of money. It's a huge setup. And so one of the challenges here is if you're doing projects that span lots of different TREs, does that mean that you can still get all of your cost recovery back? How does that work? But also, because people are sort of running TREs when it's very expensive, having the time and the effort to put into improvements and working together with other TREs is really, really difficult, because you're trying to just keep the lights on and try to support all of the additional projects. So we do need some ways of oiling this collaboration and actually kind of having additional funds so that people can work together without it taking away from their day job, as it were.
Awesome, thank you. Next question here is, what plans does HDR have in place to ensure that any open source development that happens follows certain levels of quality or standards?
So see this man over here? This is Loki, and if code isn't above certain standards and quality, then Loki will come after you with a big axe. So what we're very much wanting to do is we've published our sort of principles around this. We're wanting to go down a level deeper in terms of, you know, things that we really want to have in place, and publish more details about that. But what we kind of want to move to when we're moving to the community development side of things is a core group who work with people who are wanting to add to or change the source code, who actually can control and make sure that it's of a certain quality, and that we have things like automated testing and all of those components. So we won't integrate code unless it passes a certain level of quality. I would add that if you were to look at the current source code from our current Mark 1 version, please do not judge our code quality on that version. You're very welcome to look at it at Mark 2.
Awesome, thank you. We'll do a couple more questions. I'm also aware there's a community question in there as well that we will come back to at the end. But you kind of mentioned that you have loads of partners across the ecosystem and not just in healthcare. But going forward, both in the short and long term, how much does HDRK see their position in the community extending beyond a focus on health data research and actually being sort of a focus point on other types of research as well?
That's a very good question. I think HDR host DARE, and DARE is very much around collaborating with lots of different lots of different TREs working on sensitive data in lots and lots of different areas. But DARE is quite an independent sort of group going and doing those different things. It's funded by lots and lots of different funding. I think HDR will keep its focus on health, because we're health data research, and I don't think we should overstep working outside of that. But equally, I do think if we're building technical solutions that both meet the needs of health TRE and also a non-health TRE, then we should be quite happy to share that sort of thing. So I think we should primarily focus on how we can work in the health space. So because there's lots and lots of other people who also want to do research in the other areas as well. So I think it's far more around partnering rather than trying to, I suppose, move into that space, if you see what I mean. We're far better working with the experts in that area than we are trying to expand our remit.
Sounds good, thank you. Then one last question, an interrogation. This is a good final one as well. It's HDR's work is great and it's highly ambitious, but if there's only one thing you could make happen, what would it be?
The sun to shine. I'm here on my holidays. This is marvelous. There's like sea. I haven't had a summer holiday. It's been raining for the whole time. The sea, the sand. It's lovely and sunny. But what would we want to fix? I think collaboration rather than competition. And I think that's the only way that we're really going to transform this landscape, because otherwise everybody's still going to work in silos.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please, for Emily for amazing keynote. Thank you. That's good. Thank you.
Just looking at my.
All right. So I am aware it is very warm in here and it is break time. So just to say very quickly before we go to break, and we'll go for an extra 5 minutes past 11:30. So we're going to move into lightning talks for the second half of this morning. Just to summarize them, it's going to be an even split across rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say like here. That's about even split, isn't it? If you're on this side of me, we're gonna, when you come back from the break, we're gonna be in the other room. And I'm gonna ask us, Simon, if you can lead everyone on the way to the break past the other room so they know where they're going afterwards. Everyone this side, you're coming back in here. And online, we're gonna split you evenly between the rooms as well. All sessions will be recorded. Don't worry about missing out. The focus of the lightning talks is on knowledge sharing, collaboration. 5 minutes only. If you're giving a lightning talk, 5 minutes, no more. And I know you have different interpretation of slides. Sorry?